Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Money Matics podcast. My name is Omobobola, and yeah, you know me. I'm your host on this show, and I hope that you've enjoyed the last two episodes. Come on, that was a conversation, wasn't it? It was really a conversation, and I got some feedback from that episode, which is very interesting, and it was very pleasing for me to actually have people respond and send me messages and be like, hi, that one, I enjoyed it, but I'm thinking like this, but I'm thinking like that. So it was definitely thought provoking for a lot of people. So if you haven't listened to the last two episodes, you need to go check it out. Go check them out. It was a lovely conversation. It brought a lot of things to light. It made some people uncomfortable. It made some people go like, oh wow, then I'm doing something right. It made some people go like, oh, maybe I'm not doing something right. And maybe it also was a light bulb moment for some people. Oh, that's why I spend my money the way I do. And so go check it out if you've not listened. And if you listened and you haven't commented, please go ahead, send me your comments. Let me know what you're thinking. So definitely really good one there. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about something that is very basic, very, very basic. A couple of weeks ago, somebody was telling me, oh, I enjoyed listening to your podcast. I really love it, what you're doing, what you talk about, but I'm really looking forward to hearing some numbers. And I was like, yeah, of course, it's money matics. We got to get to the numbers one day. So today we're getting into some numbers. Today we're talking budgeting. Budgeting 101. You need to budget. I think I've said that many, many times. Don't spend money that you haven't budgeted for. Don't spend money that you haven't planned for. So today I'm going to get into some numbers with you, and I hope that you enjoy this show. Budgeting is a major basic building block of personal finance. So let's say personal finance is a house. Budgeting is like the bricks. Without the bricks, there is nothing happening. There is no house. So this is my advice to you. If you haven't been budgeting before, if you haven't been doing this, you need to get into it. If you're doing it like that, just like that, and you're not really putting your attention into it, you need to be doing that right now. There are many ways that people budget. There are many ways that people do their budgets. One of the most common one is the 50-30-20 model, or the 50-30-20 rule, which basically is saying 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, and then 20% on your savings. Some other people do the zero budget model, where every penny is accounted for. Some other people will do the envelope model. They put money into different envelopes, and then they spend the money for those different for the different things that are in the envelopes. But today I will be getting into more nitty-gritty than the 50-30-20 rule. It will still be like some kind of backbone to this, but I want to get into more numbers. I plan. And I've talked about my spreadsheet, my Excel sheet many times. We sit and I put everything on it. I mean, everything. Income, everything. What do you call it? The ban drug or whatever it's called from the government that you get for your children, child support, child welfare, whatever that is called in your country. Everything I put it in. And then the bills, everything, housing, car loan, insurance, children's after school care or school fees or whatever you want to call it. Every single thing gets put into this budget. And so, you could do budgeting as you are as a person. So if you're the kind of person that really likes to get into the details, you could have a very detailed budget. If you're the kind of person that is more like, okay, you just want to get a general idea of how your money is going, you could do something that fits you. But what I would just recommend is when you're budgeting, make it fun. Don't let it become like something that is very hard and strenuous. Make it fun. Let it be do it at the level that you enjoy, that you are able to handle it on the long run. But yeah, those are some things I would just like to share in the beginning as we are starting. So let's get into the numbers. This is what I say. Let's talk about the most important thing, your savings. There is a saying, don't save what's left after spending, but spend what's left after savings. So I'm starting with that post in your budget. your savings, you should do that first. And I'm encouraging you, please put your savings on direct debit. Let the money leave your account the moment your salary hits your account. Don't be playing around, waiting to see what will happen. Just do it. So if you do not have a direct debit right now for your savings, pause this podcast and go set up one for your savings. Yes, do that right there. Yes, thank you very much for doing that. Anyways, your savings. I think that ideally your savings should be 20% of your income. Every month you should be saving 20% of your income. And I will explain what I mean by that. I mean that you should set aside 20% of your income every month to go into a savings account, or like I've said before, 2-3 savings account, whatever it is. We will get into what you should be putting your savings on as we go on, but 20% should be going to your savings. I did a similar episode like this on intentional randomness, my other podcast that I started before this one. And I remember that in that particular one, I was talking about saving 10 to 15% of your income. But I've realized that you need much more than that to be able to really make some really good progress when it comes to your personal finances and getting out of this living from paycheck to paycheck. So if you can, please go for 20%. Go for 20%, put your mind to it, and you'll thank me later. The other thing that is a big major spending on anybody's budget is your accommodation. Whether you're renting or you own your own place or you have a mortgage, accommodation takes a lot of money, a big chunk of our income. And ideally, I would say your accommodation should be around 20%. But with the increased interest rates that we're experiencing, the high cost of everything, don't do more than 30% on accommodation. 30% on accommodation maximum. And I'm talking your mortgage repayment, your interest rate, your electricity bill, your housing insurance. So your house insurance, please have a house insurance. Have a house insurance, my dear. You need it. So your insurance, your electricity bill, your interest rate, your mortgage, or your rent, if you're renting, should not be more than 30% of your household income. If you find that you're spending more than 30% of your household income, you should check out what you can do to reduce that. You're probably living a little bit above your means in terms of accommodation, maybe living, you need to really reconsider. Let me not say more than that. That's my advice, not more than 30% on accommodation. Another major thing that takes our money is food, feeding. And I'm talking groceries, the one you buy into your house and cook by yourself and eat by yourself. Not the one you go eat out in the restaurant. That's not even a need. That's a want. You know that it's a want. So groceries, I would say groceries, clothing. We all need to wear clothes, you should have you should set aside money for buying clothes every month so that you are not stuck with an outdated wardrobe that you now have to do a whole big overhaul just to get it into shape. So groceries, clothing, and transportation. Yeah, you're not a tree. You're going to have to move from one place to another. So please, your transportation, you should plan for that. And transportation could be public transport. It could be your own car that you own. It could be maybe you took a car loan to get your car and you've put it on repayment, whatever it is that your transportation looks like. So transportation, clothing, and groceries should not be more than 20% combined. That is where we're now. We've done 20% savings, we've done 30% accommodation, we've done 20% on groceries, clothing, and transportation. So we are at 70%. The remaining 30%, then what should happen to that? I would say 10 to 15% should be going to giving. Yeah, especially for you, an African who is in diaspora, you know that you're going to have people who call you up, people who need your help, people you want to bless. It could be your parents, your siblings, your nephews, nieces, whatever it is you're giving. It could be the less privileged, it could be anything. Your church, if you are a believer, your tithe and offering, please plan for it. 10 to 15% should be going to your giving. Not more than that. Maybe some months might be more than that, but try to keep it around that 10 to 15%. And then the remaining 10 to 15%, then the remaining 20 to 15%, you might ask, what should that be going to? That's where I now come with the wants. I'm thinking your phone bill, your internet bill, the eating out, the self-care. Girl, you got to go to that spa. Yes, please. You can go to spa. Nobody said you shouldn't do it, but please plan for it. And not more than 15 to 20% of your income on things like that. Your self-care. If you have any other loans that you took for whatever reason, you could have that monthly recurrent payment right there in that 15 to 20%. Some of us in Europe, our children don't pay school fees, but we pay a little token just for, after school care, or the fact that they go to, in Sweden, we say free teeth. That little extra money, make sure it's coming out of this 10 to 20%, or maybe from your accommodation or grocery budget if you have room for it. But yeah, these are the things you should have in your wants bucket. The miscellaneous, the things that you will not die if you don't do them, should not be more than 20 to 15 to 20% of your income. Basically that is it that we've got into 100. Now I would say this: if you are asking, if you're thinking, what is Bobby talking about? What is she talking about? All these loans that I have, how is it going to be paid or whatever? This is what I say to you. If you are in debt and you are not able to have the budget I just talked about, because the budget I just talked about is basically for an ideal situation, an ideal situation, everything is under control. That should be ideal. Now, if you're not in an ideal situation, maybe you have debts that have accumulated and you're just trying to, I would say that 20% savings, a major part of it should be going to your debt repayment at first. You need to get rid of your debt. So there is no point saving money, sitting down in an account and you have debts up to your nose, so just take some of that 20% and start paying off your debts. That's one thing to do. If you have a major, let's say a major emergency that is actually requiring you to be funding it, think of also maybe just for a short time taking 1 or 2, 3% of your savings and just clearing that off so that it doesn't sit and become a debt as well. As much as possible, avoid debts. They're not good for you. And then I would say that if you have any other thing, for example, those of us in Europe, we are lucky. Most of us, we don't pay school fees. But if you are in a country where you would need to pay school fees for your children, maybe when they're in university or when they are a little bit older, or maybe you have other dreams for them, you want them to go to a private school, you want them to go to a place where you pay extra, here's what I would say to you. You have to think about your accommodation. If you're already at the 30% maximum, you have to think of something. Something has to give. The problem with most of us is that we don't want anything to give. So then we end up being overwhelmed by debts. If you know that you would need to save up for your children's education, start now. You should be living in an accommodation that is not 30%, then maybe 20%. Maybe 25%, so that you have that extra 5% or 10% to save. If you know that you need to be paying that school fees, please make sure that you can cut down on your groceries, your clothing, your transportation now, so that you have room for that. That's what I would say to you. So basically, those are some numbers. And I am really looking forward to hearing from you. If you agree, if you're doing the same, if you're doing something different, if you're curious, I would really like to know. Now, when it comes to your saving, let's say you are living in an ideal situation and you are saving 20%. How should your savings portfolio look like? I would say if you have an emergency fund already, you have your 3 months income or 3 months basic needs saved up, you should be investing your 20%. You should be putting that into your pension savings, into private investments, into private equity. You should be doing that kind of stuff with your 20%. If you do not have an emergency fund, you should be saving up for an emergency fund. So a big chunk of your 20% should be going to that emergency fund. And then the other, whatever is left that is not going to emergency fund, could be used for major needs. Again, we want to be debt free. We don't want to be living in debt. So what I would say is save up 20% every month, but maybe somehow in the middle of the year, you're going on vacation, you might go into that pocket and take some of it out to do your major expenses. That is the goal, that you don't get into debt along the way. So basically, that is what I've come to share with you today. Some numbers. There will be more numbers coming in other episodes. But when it comes to budgeting, this is what I would recommend. So again, I will run through it in case you missed it. Not more than 30% on accommodation, not more than 20% on your groceries, clothing, and transportation together, 20% in savings. You're giving 10 to 15%, something like that. And then your wants also 15 to 20%, not more than that. And you'll be good to go. You would not have any problems whatsoever. So until I come your way next time, this is the Money Matters podcast. See ya. Bye.